I want to premise this episode by saying that I totally screwed up the audio as my interface had a bug and caused the audio to freak out, unbeknownst to me. This happened about halfway through the episode, so the first half is still very listenable. I used a program to try and remove the pops and clicks as much as possible, but the distortion is still apparent. If you can stomach the weird audio, I will say I still think this conversation is very worthwhile. If not, the distortion starts around the hour mark, and you can skip to the end. I apologize to LilBagel as I wish this could have gone better, but hey, I'm still pretty new to podcasting and I'm always learning, so hopefully this helps me refine this even further. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the episode. Three, two, one, and we are live. Hello, and welcome to the seventh episode of the Bucket List Podcast. And today we have with us LilBagel. And first, I want you to explain kind of what your job title is for those who don't know.
Well, I have a lot of titles, but I'm going to try to reduce it to maybe like a handful. And I'm not trying to sound like, like I'm bragging about it or anything like that. But um, I'm LilBagel. I generally consider myself a community advocate, just first and foremost, and more specifically, a like the VR or XR community advocate. My entire idea is to do what I can inside of this space to help um, people to enable people to accomplish what they want to kind of accomplish here. And the way I do that is by being the executive director of VRCon. I am one of the three directors on that team. VRCon was spearheaded by Fizzy, and also we have Yas who helps us out. Is one of the other directors there, and we have this amazing team. We come together and we basically create what I consider as the kind of like gathering grounds, essentially like this convention for the community, this cultural center where all these individual communities come together. They advertise themselves, they recruit for their own communities, they try to find new members and really show off what they do. And so that's what I mean when I say community advocate, is that I primarily focus on projects that I believe will help the community and establish sustainability here. And I constantly worry about that every day. That is literally my everyday. I wake up in the morning, I drink a cup of coffee, I look at my projects, and I think to myself, how can I benefit the community today?
Yeah. How did VRCon kind of come to fruition? Were you inspired by any other VR conventions, or was it just kind of you saw a lack of a centralized place for all of these communities to have a place to advertise themselves?
Kind of column B, and I only say kind of because I'd always recognized that there was a need for the community to kind of have a position to speak for itself. I am somebody who, while I respect the position of the influencers and things in our midst in the community and how they promote the game and things like that and help us grow population, I'm more focused on, right, cool, now we got the people here, how do we keep them here? You know what I mean? So they're not going to be able to meet any of these people that generally that are more famous or more popular anyway. So what keeps them here when they get here, when they can't meet people like James Gee, when they can't meet people like Drumzy, when they can't meet their TFM Johnnies and stuff like that? You know what I mean? What actually keeps them around? And so VRCon kind of gives the communities that voice. It gives a really big event where everyone kind of works together to create the hype for it. So it's that singular point where everyone can kind of advertise themselves. And so the beginning of it started with, actually, I got hired to work for Virtual Market. So when I was hosting events, I fell into that because a friend kind of put my name up there to be the global team director at the time, which the direct responsibilities of that was to essentially advertise VCAT to the Western market, but also help them understand the Western side of things, because it was something that they really didn't have a lot of familiarity with, and I have a lot of familiarity with because I've been here for now going on 4 years now, but back then it was around 3 at that point. So I have a lot of background knowledge in the community and what it does and all aspects of the community. I'm very much engaged with it on every level. And then you have what happened was I got that job, but then Fizzy basically, I say he spearheaded VRCon. He had the idea initially and put it out there on Twitter, got a bunch of volunteers, but I was basically brought in later because he kind of came to me and we had a discussion. It was like a 4 hour long discussion as to whether or not like I should join the team. And really, what I was looking for is I was making sure that it was going on a path of community focus. I wanted to ensure that like this was not just a large event to be a marketing thing, you know what I mean, or an advertising platform, which is fair enough if it was. I would never had anything personal with it, but me personally, I wanted to make sure that it was an entity that was aiming to be um, like basically very community centric, benefit the community and give that. So when I came in, I also brought that perspective in as well, and I was able to bring VRCon to where it is today with its vision and the way it goes about stuff. And so the teams worked really hard. And like with me becoming the executive director, for instance, it was something that the team voted on. It wasn't just something that just happened out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It was very much a process, and I'm really happy and honored that I was like kind of put in that position to allow that direction to seed and grow something from what people thought was going to be a failure, and then it wasn't. You know what I mean? Actually, there was a lot of naysayers about VRCon, but of course there's always going to be naysayers, and I think we definitely proved them wrong the last 2 years about what a community can really do when it decides it wants to take itself seriously and actually push towards better things.
Do you think that the interest in VR-centric events would have happened as quickly without COVID, or you
No,
think COVID really helped VRCon?
absolutely not. Yeah, COVID absolutely helped VRCon. It would be really dumb to discredit that, but it was like a miracle in disguise. And I always say it like this, and I know it sounds mean, but while everyone is having the worst year of their life, I was busy learning a life skill, which was project management, and learning everything that I ended up learning or needed to learn to become the leader I am today. So I was having the time of my life while everyone else was essentially like cooped up inside and having the worst time ever. So I really found myself in 2020, honestly, and really solidified my purpose and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish.
I think COVID, if not COVID, it would have been something else. That whole
Right.
paradigm shift was inevitable. So I'm kind of glad that it happened when it did, and now we're kind of accelerating toward this new wave of content
Right.
creation. Uh, and I've noticed you to be very integrated. I mean, obviously now, but into different communities and Discord servers revolving around VR, spanning tons and tons of different types of content. Uh, did you begin exploring these communities as a result of VRCon, or was that way beforehand, and then you kind of brought that to the table with VRCon?
A bit of column A, a bit of column B. You only know what you know, right? So a lot of these communities I would never have known unless they found out about VRCon and applied. And then, from there, obviously, I do my due diligence, and when we go through the approval process of the applications and stuff for the booths, all of us take part in researching the communities, really looking into their discords and making sure that they're up to snuff, and that this is something that isn't a malicious group. They're not doing anything wrong, or harboring anything, right? Because you want to make sure there's proper you know processes to make sure you're filtering out the bad players. um, but essentially, yeah, that's I like to keep tabs on the communities. I mean, community is ultimately my passion, like in the end of all of this, right? I absolutely love what people do, and I love enabling those people. Like that's what I consider myself ultimately. When I say community advocate, it's like I'm an enabler, right? I love to enable people to accomplish what they're really looking at. If somebody comes to me and they're very serious about something and they really want to accomplish it, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to help them, right? And I'm not going to expect anything back, you know.
What are uh what are some of the most interesting communities that you've seen cultivated in VR?
Interesting communities. Well, it depends on what your definition of interesting is. I know it's a cop out answer. I kind of find what everyone does to be interesting to an extent, right? Because everyone really finds a niche and they capitalize on it, and seeing how they play around with it is always interesting. But if I were to pick those that highlight in my head the most, I would say Gob's Emporium, which is really good. That is an improv group where they basically come together and they have like improv stand-up comedy, similar to what you would see on, Whose Line Is It Anyways? It's kind of done like that, except like, it's really cool. They have their own workshops too, so they actually teach people improv as well. It's amazing. Another community that I think goes without saying on this impressive feat that they've done, which is the deaf community. Helping Hands is another great example of a community doing something incredibly unique, which is, you know, for us, we took for granted things like Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, and Discord. We could use our voices and stuff like that to communicate. And we all know how hard it is to really pay attention to text when we're in the middle of conversation. So really, the deaf communities there kind of get ignored or kind of pushed off to the side when they're just text, right? Whereas in this game, this is like their Discord. They can actually do sign language in VR. And in fact, they've created their own dialects because some, hand gestures cannot be done, and there's some limitations to the controllers, but because of that, it's actually created language dialects within the VR space, which is really interesting to find out about and super cool. What else is there? I can just go through this list here. I mean, obviously, you have the real positive communities like the Kitten Marching Band who do charity events and they march around the public worlds and they act cute and amazing and they get people to join them in their parades and they raise money for charity and great causes. You have got the IDA who uses their full body tracking. Actually, I think, and I don't know if this is, you don't quote me on this, I think they've partnered with Vive for the trackers and stuff like that. And they actually actively dance and move around and stuff like that, showing like the capabilities of the motion tracking that they're utilizing while simultaneously, being a dance community, they're very passionate about dancing and like real dancing, and they, host competitions and stuff like that as well, like real dancing competitions inside of the VR space. Man, I can keep listing them, by the way. I can go on
Yeah.
if you want me to. I keep tabs. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I was integrated with the deaf community. It was a long time ago,
mhm.
way before, like the Surmore video and that stuff really took them off, and it was just kind of a group of like 20 to
Mhm.
30 people. And it was very interesting with the whole like you said, the dialects. It's almost like a regional dialect sort of thing. And how portals are, W for world, and then making a,
Mhm.
it's so hard to do this with the microphone in front of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like different words that you would not have thought would make their
Right.
way into VR. What is a what is a group that has yet to transition into VR, but you think they would have a really rich presence here if they did?
A particular group that hasn't transitioned into VR, man, that's a toughie. Um, because like everyone right now that would benefit from VR is pretty much here just because of natural growth. Um, Honestly, if I were to say what communities are missing out, that's a good question. Because like we kind of have our bases covered with what currently is possible given our like current cultural um like stage right now, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Let me think. Give me this one actually was a surprise. I wish I had more time to think about this. Um,
See,
Let
this
me
is
think.
this is your fault because you told me to bring this in cold. You could have uh
Did I?
yeah, yeah.
Oh well. I probably had something to do and I didn't want to read something transparently. Cough cough.
I
Let me
understand.
think. A community that hasn't been here yet. So you have the event hosting. That's fine. I don't know.
I can I can kind of tune in a little bit and say that um I don't think that artists music artists have quite yet transitioned in here as much as they
I
need to. That would be
disagree.
okay, so here's where we can have a conversation, right? Because I think
Right.
that individually artists, like take for example, like George Clanton, who's a vaporwave artist that I like, his label 100% Electronica will put on certain shows in VR, but it's not in VR chat or anything like that. I think it's in like a browser thing. And the same thing with Porter Robinson with his stuff. And it's all, there's no real central place to access music and concerts in VR, it feels. There's no way for me, like, have you ever been to a Top Golf before? This
What
is
is
a
a
weird
top
analogy.
golf?
Okay. It's basically where you have all of these booths and you're all playing like this, you just hit golf balls into this big field and whatever. But the thing is
Hmm.
each of you have a booth that you're assigned and you can buy one for your family, but you're all playing the same game and
Hmm.
you're kind of stacked on top of each other. And I think there needs to be something like that, but with concerts for VR, where you have, you can pay for an instance and then you can invite 30 of your friends or whatever, and then it's just you and those 30 friends watching that concert. So it's a pay-per-view type of thing, but you're paying for individual tickets and kind of your experience as opposed to paying for one ticket to go to the giant instance. And I haven't really seen uh, artists really utilizing VR, bigger artists at least, kind of stepping in here and then really changing the way that we see concerts and perceive music. I live in a place where I can't go to concerts. Like it takes me hours and hours to go drive to places that there would be big concerts for places. But I would love to be able to just get in VR and then pay for a ticket with my friends and then go see, you know, artists, the smaller artists, but ones that really haven't kind of stepped their way into here yet because they don't really know how. I think there needs to be a way for.
Are you familiar with Sly Fest?
I'm not.
Okay, that explains why we're having this discussion. Um, so otherwise you wouldn't have said that at all, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Sly Fest was, and it was one of the events I actually helped organize with Sly, which the event is named off of. It organized 40 DJs, both large and small, inside of the VR space for a 3-day long music festival. No, it wasn't paid for, but obviously, you have Patreon support and stuff like that later on down the line, which was what they got. And then they hosted another Sly Fest event in 2021. And so Sly Fest had, like, Sly actually, they actually speak with Porter and all that stuff. They actually got permission to, I think they got permission to use their set at the end of the for the finale, but he was on his world tour at the time, but was going to make an appearance. Actually, Porter Robinson is in the game actively.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know
I,
if you
I
knew that.
I've been to his show. I talked to Fia on here about Porter
Right.
Robinson. I saw his
Well,
show.
he's been here.
Yeah,
On top of that, in an older music group, which I forget the name of at this time, even the Living Tombstone was here at one point in time, right? So we've had big artists come in here from the EDM community and such like that,
but
and
you
have
see how it's
played
just
music
kind of
and stuff like
centered in
that.
the EDM community though.
Correct. For now, yeah, I
Which is why
understand
I'm
that.
saying that, like, take,
Right.
if I wanted to see, like, okay, I talked to my family recently when I was at Thanksgiving, and I asked them the question, would you go or would you pay for a concert if it was in VR? And a lot of them said, well, yeah, actually, now that I think about
Yeah.
it, because I don't want to have to drive 5 hours to Dallas or whatever to.
Well, even better because they don't have to do all that crap and take up a seat. You can do it for free and have the sponsorship. So that's how this works, right? So a lot of the pay model right now in the modern economy that we're establishing here, that the consumer or the customer doesn't actually have to pay ticket prices. The cost is actually offloaded onto the sponsorships or donations prior to the event. So it's like a pay it forward almost thing where the Patreons kind of take the load rather than the people who actively go to these events. And that's kind of how the community has it organized right now in terms of the economic way that it's established.
I think
In
that there
fact,
are plenty of people though who are completely willing, including myself, to pay just for a ticket, like $10 or
you
whatever
have a
for a
lot of
ticket.
pushback from the community for that one.
You think so? I
Oh no,
wouldn't
I
say
know
so.
so. I know so. Like I know that there'd be some people who'd be on board about it, but it would there is a cultural barrier there. So.
I think though that that kind of comes with any new set of technology, especially
Oh yeah.
with, the fact that I talked with Straz about this on the other podcast about how we're kind of seeing the same sort of cultural development that we did in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you have just
Mhm.
this Wild West internet sort of space where
Right.
people are doing things absolutely for free and just uploading things, and it's just free
Eventually it'll be
content.
monetized.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
that is a good way to monetize that. Like I am very much uh, of paying the artists directly. Like I have.
Oh, I'm for that too. I mean, I'm absolutely for ticket prices and stuff like that. You know, it'll be controversial for me to say that to the community. I've told the community to be prepared for that reality because there's no other way. Like as great as it is to have community support through Patreon and stuff, the ultimate thing at the end of the day is that's not consistent, right? Eventually, you have to figure out how you're going to pay your guys who are organizing this. And the only reason why they're able to get away with the model that they have now, and I can say this right now, is that most of the people who are working for free without paychecks, but they have no idea that they're operating jobs that would actually be paid between $60,000 to $80,000 a year, and that's why they can get away with doing these things for free. Is that they're actually working on a profession, and they either don't realize it or they're just okay with the status quo right now.
Yeah. One interesting thing that I've thought about as far as artist venues and things like that is the idea of like digital merchandising, to where you could pay for, like, let's say you do go to a digital concert and then you buy a uh a 3D model of a t-shirt or whatever, like a band t-shirt, but you can only get it
Right.
at that venue and it has some sort of digital signature on it,
Hmm.
and that's the only place that you can get that. And if you were to try and use it other places or put it on your model, you can't. So it in that sense, it's, obviously I'm just talking about the technology of NFTs kind of integrated in a different way. But I don't know. I feel like that is something that will probably be integrated in the future,
I
especially
just
with how
feel
different
like
companies are.
the only resistance you would have to that and the argument against that method would be like, ultimately people are trying to control how you're going to use a digital good. I mean, if you buy a digital t-shirt, who cares what you do with it? Kind of, as long as you don't redistribute it, that's the only illegal thing to do. But I mean, an NFT signature isn't going to prevent people from redistributing it, right? So uh,
Yeah, I'm sure.
once you
I'm
have the
sure though
asset,
in
you
the
got it.
I'm sure though in the future there would be a way to where it, before you could upload something like that, it would check for that signature and make sure, and it's like, hey, you're using a stolen asset. And I think that that is just
Yeah.
something that needs to be integrated. Period. Because I
Yeah.
mean, you've
Well,
been
I
in
mean, at
VR
that point,
chat,
all
you know
you're
about
really
stolen
talking about
assets.
is
Like that's
all you're really talking about at that point is serialization. At that point, that's all you're talking about. Which is a system that, or I'm not somebody who's going to be all inherently against I like that system or anything like that. I mean, I'm not going to really make any comment on it, left, right, or center. It's more like I know that we already have the technology to do it now, in terms of like other ways that it's not called an NFT. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Is like, if you just buy an item and it has a encrypted serialized number of that merchandised item, right? It's already recorded on the books. You know what I mean, by the business you purchased it from, right? And that already alone proves it. And then you don't really need like, yeah, I don't know. That thing is complicated, and that rabbit hole goes down really far because, obviously, ultimately, when it comes down to economy at the end of the day, it's not the economy or the systems that are inherently screwed up. It's the people that are screwed up ultimately. Like, really, like, if we want to, you're going to
yeah,
be dodging around people and how they're going to abuse the system all day long. Ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter what system you talk about, we can talk about how people are going to screw it over left, right, and center, like all day long this entire rest of the
for sure.
podcast. Yeah.
Uh,
So,
Going back to, I mean, relating to
mhm.
digital merchandising and things,
I think
I've
it's a great idea. Virtual
well,
markets have
no, no.
wide success with it.
So, uh, licensing. Like, I've noticed a lot of communities in VR revolve around, or like, certain role play groups and things. They use licensed materials, and there are obviously a lot of different licenses that are being used freely just out of the love for the source material. Like, you have, like, I've been to the Jet Set Radio World or the VRC Doom, things like that, and it just scares me because of the fact that these are just things that people are putting out for free using these licenses. Like, how much longer do you think these fan projects will last in VR?
However long the entities want to keep them around. I mean, everyone knows the consequence of violating these licenses. There, it's very clear what the rules are. So if somebody puts all that time and effort into something, it's not really a question of, hey, is this protected? It's really up to the entity that owns the IP, isn't it? That's not our decision to make, right? We can't take that right away from them. They knew what they were getting into when they made it, right? Like, would it suck if it was taken down and be a PR disaster? Likely. But like other than that, I mean, the people forget about it in 2 weeks because it's another company protecting their IPs as they should. That's their right,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, what else is there to talk about? I mean, I know that might want to be cause heated debates and stuff like that about it, but really that's just how life works, don't it? When you get sent a cease and desist, you're not really arguing about it, are you? You're probably closing down what you put up, and that's life, ain't it?
That's the thing, though, and I mean, we're both not lawyers, but it's hard to say that absolutely it's illegal to upload those things, but I think the real
It's not
question
inherently
is,
illegal. No,
well,
it's not
yes, it
illegal.
is.
So
Fan
what it
projects
is,
are illegal.
uh,
Hands are freaking out.
unless the entity doesn't enforce, right? If the it's if the entity enforces their IP, that's when it becomes like like that's when you got to stop, right? It's the whole point of the cease and desist. You know what I mean? If they have to find that it violated their IP first, and if it does, it's over, right? But you got to understand. Lakuza, for instance, put that out there, and Road to VR, I forget whichever publication, put it out there for the public to see. If they would have seen it, they would have seen it by now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they had a problem with it, they would have told them. And we don't know who Lakuza knows. Maybe Lakuza even asked them. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, so the assumption there is that like you again, it's innocent until proven guilty. We're operating in good faith until otherwise proven not so.
To me, it's more of just the sense of I think the copyright rules and things like it should Disney protect their IP? Absolutely. But is it fair that the only time that someone will be able to make a Star Wars film is the year 2093? Probably not. Like I think that the rules
Well,
should
then the
probably
market
be,
says, then don't make Star Wars. And if they want to shoot their fans in the foot like that, fine.
well, it's also just like there are there are certain books in the public domain that have more printings than books that are in the 80s and just completely unpreserved because of these licensing issues. And
Hmm.
I think that the rules should at least be somewhat tweaked in order to accompany the fact that the internet has completely changed the way that we consume media and the way that we share it with each other. And memes and things about licensed materials are such a weird legal gray area that no one really knows how to tackle the issue. And so
It's
I
a
think
it's a
that,
legal gray area because it's almost like any system you implement is like dead on unenforceable.
yeah, that's the, I mean, and obviously we have no idea how to enforce it. It's just more of a
Nobody
sense of
does. Right. We just kind of hope and pray everyone's doing it right. Like, just a kiss and a wish. That's kind of, that's kind of what we're operating on right now. There's not a whole lot we can do. I know that it's a very attractive to start talking about NFTs and smart contracts and stuff like that, but those kinds of things and stuff like that already exist in one form or another in
absolutely.
different ways, right? And even those weren't really all that effective when it came down to it, except for keeping the honest people honest. And turns out dishonest people remain dishonest, and that'll always be how it is.
Yeah.
Unless you can convert people who are bad into people who do good overnight, that's the only way you're really going to fix it. And I don't know if NFTs are going to do that. You know what I mean? It's not a magic wand. It's not like, wah, wah, lo, lo. That's not how it works. You know? Wah, lo, lo. And they pass a federal law and everyone's converted into doing good things. That's never worked.
God, I wish. I hope in the future that we'll be able to
It's
see
just
fan
up to, it's just
projects that
the
don't
most
get taken
effective
down.
thing. And this is why I do what I do, because I understand that like the most effective way to make sure standards are exercised is on the cultural acceptance level of things. It's much more effective, right? And that's why I even do what I do with the community advocacy. That's what I target, because I know if we set the standards and we hold ourselves up to great expectations, we're capable of doing better things that are more fair.
Yeah. So, you talked on your YouTube channel a little bit about Metaverse, and um, I think could you explain what Metaverse is? Because like, is it Decentraland? because you hear about it all
No.
the time. I have no fucking clue where it is, what it is, how you access it. It's I don't own
So
any Facebook products, so I
my
have no
my
clue.
thing is when it comes down to the metaverse, right? And I actually just, and good thing you said this. I actually put out a video defining the difference between meta and the metaverse, right? Because there is a difference. So the reason why, first off, I just want to say there's a differentiation between meta and metaverse. Meta is obviously Facebook, but up to
It's
this
their
point,
parent company, yeah.
they are a hardware development company to this up to this point. They've only released hardware products, but one gateway that's allowed people into this new virtual space, which people are already looking for a new term to call metaverse because of Facebook's name change. Um, but the metaverse generally referred to the collaborative space that people had where they were developing for these XR technologies, right? That was kind of the idea. So that Ready Player One idea is very much that, like, book that everyone reads and immediately like that is the metaverse. You know what I mean? It's really a buzzword these days because it doesn't have a very good definition if you don't understand that since like 1990, since the 1990s, people have been coining this term and utilizing it to kind of define what their work collectively as a community has been to establish the technologies that we know now, right? So the metaverse isn't a place. It's a it's like a it is, but it's like that collaborative community. It's what that community is called. So if it was a Discord server, it would have like all of those people who are working and influencing the metaverse. And then now you have big boy Facebook who says we are the metaverse, and then that made everyone angry because they're like, bro,
Yeah.
we were building this thing collectively, and you just show up and call yourself the thing, and now you screwed it for the rest of us. You know what I mean? That's why it's kind of it's very controversial and it very much. Classic capitalistic move,
Well, that's
to
the
show up
thing
and claim that
is
you own the party.
Facebook is trying to be the next Facebook. They want to get their
Right.
fingers into the into the pie, and they want to be the first ones into it
They
because they're
won't.
scared. That's the thing is I don't think
They
they
won't.
will,
A
but
lot of people are buying into the slippery slope fallacy that Facebook is going to take over. What I actually think is going to happen is that they've invested a ton of money into this space and they've pushed it at great speeds forward. And what it's going to do is it's going to create the leaders that we're going to need in the future to keep this space, the virtual space, or whatever we end up calling it in the future. Um, it's gonna help redefine it. It's actually raised a lot of eyebrows and made this dream very viable for people like me, for instance, like and for other people, it's really put them on that expedited path to success in other ways that will be outside of the scope of Facebook. So, um, on top of that, just because people work for Facebook doesn't mean that when they stop working for Facebook, their talent in this space just dissipates and disappears and they're never going to be able to do anything with us ever again. Not true. They're going to take that skills, so they're going to either do their own entrepreneur opportunities in the space and improve it, or they'll make their own businesses and things like that as well. You know what I mean? So there's really Facebook, this strategy seems very solid at first. It's like, oh, they're just going to buy the metaverse, but it's not. That is not that simple. Creating walled gardens is not something that can happen with money. It is a natural, progressive thing over time, and it takes a lot of upkeep to do it, and it is draining, especially whenever you have competition to worry about. And competition is everywhere. And I can tell you from my own personal experience. I can't tell you really from where because of secret squirrel. Um, there is a lot of action happening behind the scenes right now where Facebook, yeah, they will be a dominant force. There's no real way to stop that, but whether or not they're the only dominant force is yet to be seen. And even with Google, right? You can see even with Google, there's other businesses and places out there that are competing with them that don't make it so easy for them to homogenize everything. You know what I mean? There are things that even exist outside of their walled garden, as big and as monstrous and scary as they are. People don't homogenize very well. Let's just put it that way. They will naturally resist the homogeny of things, and they will create their own niches. They always do.
Dreams, can you pull up that the map of the like real estate of the metaverse, like the island thing that's kind of been going around? Just look up metaverse
People are trying
real
to
estate.
sell.
Yeah,
If
the
people are
like
trying to,
land space. So
I'm
that
gonna
was my
kill
that was
them.
my next point was how Metaverse, and obviously when I say Metaverse now, I'm talking about the Facebook
Right.
Metaverse. Uh, they seem to be cultivating an entirely different like tourism culture than VRChat has. And what I mean by this is how VRChat has, like, we've obviously coined the term world hopping, and where each world is completely different from the last, and none are directly connected to each other. And then meanwhile, the metaverse from this seems to be creating this large scale map, which real estate is scarce and there's higher competition for possession. Do you think
It's
like
absurd.
do you think Facebook can survive on this? Yeah,
Mm,
here's
I
the
think
map.
they're
Let
gonna
me pull
con.
this up.
I think they're gonna con a lot of people into this, is what I think. But honestly, if we're talking about virtual real estate, I own a virtual mansion.
Right
Would you
click,
say that it's
right click, open a
worth?
new tab. That's what you can do. Yeah, there you go. So a lot of these seem to be like NFT groups and things. I don't see many companies. I mean, you get like Atari and what is that, Roller
What you're
Coaster
seeing,
Tycoon, but
what you're seeing is the old ways of doing economy clashing with what is going to be the new way of handling this stuff. What they're trying to do is that obviously in their economy they view scarcity as what gives things value. What you're seeing isn't uh, an you're seeing an economic model that has a belief system that scarcity gives something its value.
yeah,
Now, you and
exactly.
me, we've been on the internet for a long time. We realize that yes, we may have bought ourselves a digital skin on a video game or something like that, but a lot of people have those. You know what I mean? And its scarcity doesn't necessarily inherently give it its value. I mean, the CS:GO, right? The rarity
Yeah.
of it, like which makes it scarce, will add value to it, right? But it's the same. It's the same concept here. It's like this boomer mentality essentially, where they know there is value in real estate, and they know there's value in land, but the problem that they have is that it's false scarcity.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a scarcity in their walled garden, but outside, everywhere else around them, the scarcity does not exist. This is a microcosm of a lie, right?
Yeah.
Where if you choose to drink this Kool-Aid, that's fine. Like, if you're gonna spend your money on stupid things, go ahead. Be my guest.
I mean, do
But
you
this is
recognize any of these companies aside from the obvious ones like Atari, and these just all look like NFT groups and people, and that's the thing is
it's
I
it's
think the
precisely
metaverse.
what this is,
Yeah, I
and like it doesn't make any sense because like basically what we're seeing here is that like what's the decision here, right? Is the culture making a decision as whether or not we should limit and have the web be scarce, or should we have it be open, right, for everyone to access? This is like the real question here, right? It has nothing to do with this. Get rid of the real estate, right? Has get rid of that problem, because that's not the core of the issue of what we're asking here. No one cares if you have a digital house. I have one. Did anyone care? No. Right? Like, no one gives a hell, right? Nobody came up to me, a news anchor, and was just like, hey, you have a virtual mansion, how much do you think it's worth, lol? Nobody did that, right? Because no one gives a hell, right? The actual thing here is that people are trying to monetize scarcity in a digital space. And that is really the core of it. Like, how do you do this? And that is really what they're doing. I mean, if people put value behind it, sure. So I think what gives things the value, like with a site like this, is it depends. How many users do you have? Because that's obviously going to be a big defining factor as to whether or not you are a viable platform to put any sort of advertising space towards. And at that point, if you're selling space on your website, I mean that's it right there, right? There's only a scarce amount of space that you can put up on your website for an advertisement. So get rid of the real estate. What this really is you're just buying a part of a web page that's a massive advertisement. That's
yeah.
all you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think Metaverse will become, is basically just a huge group of people who have all paid for this, and then they're trying to convince each other that their investment was sound, and like, hey, let's
Well, that's
look,
all what
look
the
what we're
economy has
doing.
ever
Yeah.
been.
No,
That's all the
well,
economy has ever been. Like,
I
they
okay, but
do things and then
here's the
they
difference
convince a
though.
bunch of people with money that they're right. Like
Here's the
that's
difference though, is
Right.
Facebook doesn't have what VRChat has already created, in which they have this
Correct.
gigantic community and user base of people who are willing to do things absolutely for free, which is nuts. And I like the fact that I can
That
just
won't last
go,
forever,
that's
by the
it,
way.
it won't last forever, but it's a basis. It's a basis that Facebook does not have
Correct.
right now. And like I just went world hopping with my friend last night. We went through a whole ton of different things, and there's just this one guy who, the world description is just I modeled the Sears I used to work at. Like, just
Right.
weird random things, but that's what you can do. It's like going through different websites. Whereas this, there's none of that because you have to pay for this. This is digital land that all of these companies have tried to.
So think about it. It's like a mind share scheme, right? No, this isn't going to matter if you get 5 people to buy it. You know what I mean? But you get 1,000 people, right, to look at this, and then suddenly it's looking pretty valuable to a small community of 5,000 people, right? That's some pretty good exposure to those people, especially those are the people you're trying to target, right? Now imagine, you have much more people investing into this kind of thing, right? So of course, like they turn into evangelists because that's what happens with these kinds of models. They completely rely on the user to turn into an evangelist for the technology and to put it like on a pedestal to convince somebody else. Because if one person can convince 2 other people, and those 2 other people can convince 2 other people, then it spreads like wildfire, and then it creates its own value because other people value it, right? But that's all what currency and stuff like that does anyways. The only reason why it has value is because we say it does, right? So this is at this point now we're just talking about like what's its features, what does it do, what does it actually give to the
There
person, and
there is a difference though. So
right.
like you said with currency, yes, the only reason that it has value is because we all say it has value, but it's also
Mhm.
because there's an integrity to that. Whereas with this is more built on hype, the same way that kind of the
Correct.
dot-com bubble was. And there's
Right.
nothing like there's an obvious alternative to all of this where it's like, "Hey, come join the metaverse, come see what we're doing." Whenever you have this, group of people who are like, "No thanks, we have what we've created over here and it's free and all my friends are here. I'm not leaving." So, eh.
Right.
And also, like, take for example, you talked about avatar culture. And I think the beauty in VR chat is that if you truly want to build your own avatar from the ground up, you can absolutely do that. You have that freedom.
Mhm.
And it seems I'm not sure of this, but it seems from what the metaverse is going to do, it's going to take like a more monetized approach where you have these default avatars and then you purchase things to put on that avatar.
That'll
Where
never see through.
yeah, but I saw like Nike is starting to make digital
That
Jordans, and then you
Yeah,
put the digital
that
Jordans on the metaverse
appeals.
characters.
I think that appeals to a certain audience. Obviously, people who want the ease of access are going to go for that, and they're going to eat that up like candy, right? And there's going to be a lot of them, right? That won't want to learn any of the tools or the way that things actually work because right now there is a very large barrier to entry, and until technology comes out or applications that make that customization easier, or even that people actually agree on a standardized model file, right? So like an actual standardized file, that everyone uses, you know, then we're gonna keep running into an issue like this issue where a lot of people run around with not knowing how to customize their avatars, right? It's not that simple. Um, but anyways, uh, I just don't think that it will take hold. I think customization is really important. I think people really they add their the difference between this and the web. This is one thing I will say about the metaverse and the web. The web, you are an anonymous user and you put out whatever the fuck you want, right? You say whatever you want. You can be the biggest asshole on the face of the planet and you don't think twice about it. Here in this space, people bring their humanity here. And I think a lot of people see that and respect that. There's a lot more humanity here on display than there is the typical web. There is a lot more togetherness. There's a lot more friend groups. I mean, you do still have the trolling, right? But I feel that even eventually, like you saw this with the Knuckles meme, right? Yeah, you have this large influx of trolls, but what the weird thing is they kind of start becoming one of us slowly over time. I mean, I can guarantee you, ask one friend in your friend group in VR chat, or ask your friend group and say, And if they've been here for 4 years, ask them, were you a Knuckles? The answer might surprise you.
What
There's
was
a
that?
YouTube video.
You
Right.
probably saw that one post on Reddit. I
Yeah.
talked about this before about that guy who was like, I joined VR chat 4 years ago to be a Knuckles, and then they had a picture of them with thigh-high
Right.
socks on and the fucking vodka and you know full body
Yeah.
tracking. It's like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. God
what?
damn it. It happens. Yeah. You get indoctrinated into the culture. Welcome. But that's it, though, right? Like, you don't really do that with the web. You know what I mean? Like, in the web, you generally just stay your own person. People are faceless. You
There's
know what I
social
mean?
accountability here, is what it
Right.
feels,
There's a lot more
because
social accountability. Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing of how, like, whenever you join a Discord call, obviously you're joining one channel and then you're talking to those people. You can have multiple channels in the same
Right.
server, but it's not the same as, like, I can go into a world and then literally see different cliques of people talking to each other, and you can interchange between those groups. You can go and just kind of people watch. There's none of that on the web, whereas this is just
Hmm.
completely untouched territory now, and it just feels so much closer to real social interaction. I mean, not to say that previous talking on the internet wasn't social interaction, but now the fact that we can, in a way, see each other in the way that we're reacting to things, you have this emotional stimuli. It's
You know
very
what?
bizarre.
I think because there's a phenomenon that I've noticed, and I don't know if you noticed the same thing. When people are in desktop, they act out much more than people who are in VR, if you've noticed that.
Oh no,
And
I
I
do that.
all right. And I think it's because, like, I wonder, and this is just a theory. I'm not saying that this is solid facts, but I wonder if it's because we actually have a lack of expression is what causes us
To
to
overexpress.
overexpress to compensate, right?
I would agree with
Uh,
that. Absolutely.
right. Because, like, body language, right? You don't know who's threatening, or, like, and when you're out there, looking around, your animal monkey brain instincts is looking for friendly behavior. You know what I mean? And if somebody comes up to you looking like a stone statue, it's kind of intimidating. You know what I mean? Like, it's an immediate intimidation thing, or, like, when you're faced with it, maybe like, you respond to it, like, some people are probably a little more numb to it than others, because they've maybe used to it so often. But it might be quite a surprise for somebody to be so active in the VR space and be able to move around fluidly, and then be approached by somebody who can't do that, and that might be intimidating. You know what I mean? A little bit.
It's
Then you
also
might end
probably
up having
something to
that
do with
feedback loop. You know what
a
I mean?
sense of exposure. Like
What's that?
your body's like exposed. Like you feel like you're there physically. More is like when you're at your desktop,
Yeah.
you're separated. You're like
Right.
looking at it through a
So there's, like,
window.
this kind of communication frustration, and this actually rings true with a story where there was a teacher who actually works with special needs people on a plane, and they saw that a kid was acting up who had special needs on the plane, and the mother had no idea what the heck to do. Obviously, the kid's having a meltdown, and she's used to this kind of situation. It's like, oh well, it happens, but the reality is that, like, because there's a communication gap, that kid was acting up. But because this person who'd worked with special needs actually took out a notepad and drew out some shapes and stuff like that, and had the kid point at the shapes to help communicate what they wanted, and it turned out they just wanted some food and some water. They were hungry. You know what I mean? Like, and because they had problems communicating that, they really threw a tantrum and an attitude. You know what I mean? Because they didn't know how to properly communicate that thing. But, just because that individual has special needs and stuff like that, does not discount the fact that that is still a human thing. That is a human nature thing. You know what I mean? That is still a human, regardless of how you slice it. You know what I mean? And it's, I think there's this, like, again, that monkey brain, you know what I mean, that really
Absolutely.
desires to be understood, and if it's not understood, it acts in different ways. I mean, people always say that. I know I'm going on a tangent, I'm sorry,
Oh
but
no, this
people
is
always
great.
say that, like, when it comes down to it, like hatred and all that stuff, or somebody who's frustrated, you know what I mean, or constantly aggressive, it because there's a love debt there. You know what I mean? There is a debt of love and care for that person that has not been paid. And until that debt is paid, they're not going to get over it. You know what I mean? And it is either a debt where the self-love has to come from themselves or from others, which they initially seek it from others if it's from themselves, right? And if they don't get it, they get really frustrated, and then when they do get it and it's not enough, they get hella frustrated and really aggressive. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. That's just
It's
this is a
similar
theory.
to the whole. I've compared it to like the road rage mentality of how when I'm driving,
Right.
all I see is cars. I don't see people. I don't
Right.
see who's behind the wheel. I just get mad when they
Right.
cut me off, and it's like take we talked about the deaf community. There was this one person who not only were they Russian, but they were in desktop and didn't have VR, and so communicating with them, it was like it was so difficult. And because they, there's like two separate language barriers, because not only are they not very articulate in spoken Russian, because if you've ever talked to a deaf person over text before, they think in more ideas, and so their grammar isn't like standard English grammar, and so I can assume
Correct.
that would be similar to uh, it would be the same in Russian. And so there's that, and then there's the fact that they are in desktop, and it's like, how do I talk to this person? This is crazy. I there's just a complete disconnect. Whereas you get someone in VR, and there's just so much more expressive. And in the deaf community, there's people who are from France and just all over. And despite knowing different sign languages, they can communicate with each other. There's a sense of unity between all of us, and it's really weird how like I used to be like, whenever someone asks them like, you should get in VR, like come in VR now, if someone's in desktop, it's like, why does it matter? You're here talking. But then I
Hmm.
realized, oh, it's so much more expressive and connected whenever you get into VR. And so
Right.
then it reduces that road rage mentality of, these aren't real people. These are just people on my screen, little people living in my computer type of
Well,
thing.
the whole the core of road rage, anyways, is the like you're driving for your life. You're like, why that person cut me off? Do they not understand? I'm just trying to get home. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of how you get. Like, and if they understood, then you'd probably be fine. You know what I mean? So that's just down to communication again, right? There is a communication barrier whenever you're in the car and another person is. I mean, what do you got to communicate with the next guy in front of you? Honk, and that's it.
Yeah, I guess
You know what I mean? Like,
I guess the
you
core
know,
of a lot of issues in life are about communication, right? It's like when I play Dead by Daylight and the
110%.
only two things I can do are point and wave, and it's like, what the fuck? How do I communicate with my teammates? I can't do anything.
Yeah,
How
how
am I
do I
supposed to
tell
play a
them to
team
get
game?
your ass on the generator, please?
You see? You see? That's why VHS, whenever that came out, they're like, all right, listen, we're building
Run,
this around communication.
please.
Seriously, man.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the thing. Communication is the
that's it. Well, that's the thing here, right? Like, sorry. Whew. That's it though. That the core of all of this, right? This is just a new medium of communication. This is finally, honestly, people are like, this is the next step of the web and everything like that. And to an extent, I agree. But what I really think it's like the ultimate next step of is the next step of digital communication, right? That is really what it is. It's that next step up. If Discord came out and they were like, "Hey guys, we're making our own like social VR application," people would be like, "Holy shit!" And if they're
And
like,
you
"It
know
has
what's
custom,"
crazy? Social
right,
VR. Like the sense of how
right,
you notice when you're in a Discord call and you're all playing a game, like you'll be in that call, but the second we all
yeah,
stop playing a game, people tend to kind of dip out
just
and go,
leave,
yeah.
right? And then
They're
there's nothing to do anymore. People dip out. But if it was the same thing with like, Discord's the same way, right? Instead of hopping worlds, all you're doing is hopping servers. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Oh, these people aren't doing this thing anymore. Okay, well, I'll just go join that other server that's doing another thing that I like, and they're in there and they seem to be active, right? And it's the same thing here, right? Like we hop around instances. Not, you know what, nobody takes any offense either. Like, you know what I mean? It's like in real
Yeah.
life, we would probably find it very offensive if somebody just got up and left out the door with no explanation. We'd be like, yo, what the fuck happened? Is he mad? But here it's generally accepted that if you just disappear, you're just gone, and people are like,
Just
"Oh, all right,
AFK. He'll be back.
he just left the
Maybe. Who
game, right?
knows?
He just left the game, like he just left the world. That's okay. I'll see him again sometime. You know what I mean? So like, this is just the next evolution of social VR. Instead of communicating though just voices, now we're getting body language. You know what I mean? And more ideas shared around through not only just avatars but also through worlds and stuff. Actually, now I had time to think about it, and I was just said what I just said. I'll answer your question on a community that I think has not I know we're coming back around, but has
Oh,
not
yeah.
that needs more.
What's up?
Right? The theater community.
Yeah,
Not enough.
I would agree. I've seen like 2 theater performances total in my
Right.
time in VR chat, and it was like a big deal. It was, they like, oh my god, there's finally a theater performance, and they had these sets that they built up and all these costumes, and it
Did
was
you go to
so
the interactive? Did you do the interactive theater experience?
No, I was talking more about the there was one that I can't remember the name of, but then there was also the VRG theater one that they did.
Okay.
And I just, I know that they all had put costumes together and whatnot. I didn't actually see it. I watched the VOD of it on
And I'm
YouTube.
telling you, immersive live theater
It will
inside
be
of
cool, dude. Shakespeare in the
No,
Park in VR.
I've already been a part of interactive theater inside of, and I'm feeling kind of guilty for not remembering what it was called. Give me a second. I need to look this up so I can call it out correctly. Otherwise, I am going
That's
to
a
have
multi-million
bad
dollar business
time.
right there. VR Broadway.
Oh
It's
my
next level.
God! It
Who's
is
gonna
well.
do
It's
who's gonna do Les Mis and Lion King? When's that coming? The VR theater
yeah.
experience. And the thing is, you're not
So
limited by sets and whatever. You can do particle effects and crazy shit and
oh
do
God,
it all
like
live there. That's good. That's
it,
a good one.
it's super good. Give me a second. Uh,
Send it to Dreams and we'll pull it up here if you have a video.
I need to get on editing, please.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Oh, I'm sitting way too far up in my chair.
I am sorry that I am looking up this and having a hard time.
It's all
You know
good.
what? I know what her name is on.
Oh, what? I just noticed that
Here it is.
the little I guess I should turn that off. The little mute button is visible on my screen. I didn't know that.
Oh, well, there you go. Now you can fix it.
UI elements, man.
Oh, I can't send messages to Ella Streams because I am not a good boy,
no.
apparently.
What?
I'm just gonna put in yelling. I don't know where do I put
Spoken
this
word?
at? Donk. They'll appreciate the plug. Yeah, so this is called the Severance Theory.
The plug.
And this is made by a lot of producers, but I know one of them, Deirdre V Lyons is who she is on Twitter, and essentially this is called the Severance Theory. What they did is that this was a very unique experience. What they do is they pick one person in your viewing group as the main character, and then they put that person in the position of the main character, and they have scripts that they go off of, but they will ad lib around the individual and let the individual put in their own dialogue.
That's fun.
It is a full-blown like 30-minute production with animations. They do fantastic acting and everything. They really create the
I
scene.
saw this in passing on Twitter.
It is so good. I've never had a more immersive experience inside of VR in terms of like that, because they made everything feel natural because you are actually there, right? This isn't like, oh, well, 3D makes you feel like you're in the thing. You are in the situation, right? Like with all these nice 3D rocks flying at your face, 'cause that's kind of
neat.
cool. No, what it is that the actors are right there, and what happens is, sorry, there was
The
drift on my
world
keyboard
is
right there.
animated.
Oh,
That's
it's
crazy
so cool.
cool.
And like everyone is like invisible except for Alex, which is the main character. And basically everyone just as invisible like entities try to protect Alex during the situation, right? And it basically goes through like childhood trauma and stuff like that too, is what their project is all about. And it's just like, my goodness, like, oh, it was so raw. Like the situation that it creates, the emotion that it creates is like some of the most raw I've ever felt any production I've ever been a part of or seen ever.
So
They're geniuses.
this kind of brings up the topic for me, where there's obviously a very big generational difference in the way that VR is being implemented, and it seems to be very different from the way like smartphones were implemented, where now it is
Mhm.
kind of a necessity to have a smartphone in day-to-day life, and no matter what
Right.
generation you are, you have a smartphone regardless of if you really know how to use it or not.
Right.
And do you think VR has kind of passed the point of gimmick to where it may be a necessity in the future for people, even if they may not want it?
Not yet, but that's my job.
Get them to that point. Everyone needs a headset.
Not yet, but it's my job. Yep, that's my final answer on that one. That's part of my job, right? Part of my job is creating these experiences that people can talk about to where it is that thing that people can't live without, because otherwise, you're missing out on some cool experiences. And right now, like again, I'm working on projects and have worked on projects to increase the research, the viability of this technology in people's everyday lives, to also explore what it would be like to have this kind of tool being used for this thing. Does VR work for this? Does it work for that? Talking with the industry leaders and really assessing what this technology can actually be used for. On top of like even talking with entities about safety standards and stuff like that, and how to define these terms and terminologies to help people who want to have regulations or their own, like on a business level, right? Because on businesses, they also have to generate their own like standards on how they're going to utilize technology. They kind of need to know what they're talking about, right? So this is the kind of thing that I help with, and I don't know. I'm just doing what I can.
Everyone needs a headset. That's end goal. That's
Everyone
bottom
needs a
line.
headset. I agree. Everyone needs a headset so you don't miss out on the opportunities that are growing here while they're growing. Because once it explodes, it'll be much harder.
Oh,
Right?
speaking of everyone needs a headset dreams, I put an article down on it's I think number 9 on the list there. Are you ready for the wave of irresponsible parents letting their kids play games that they shouldn't be on, e.g. VR chat? And click on the second link, the New York Times article. That one's perfect. There's a it's so good. Yeah, there's there's a really good statistic in there that I want you to see.
We all saw this coming from a mile away.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing, right? When magazines came out back in like the 20s, they were like, oh, all these kids are going to be buried in the magazines. They won't lift their head at the dinner table. They're not going to, it was, people thought that was the end of the world. And, oh, come on. See, okay, you know what? Think about it. Fish concerts in VR, Whippets from home.
Are we back in the podcast? Sorry, I was watching a video.
I started recording again. Oh, you guys won't know this, but I had a little bit of an audio freak out, but we're good. So
now they'll know this.
They won't know this. No one will know this.
That's okay. We were messing with HTML crap anyway, being hackers, and I only figured it out at the end off camera.
Yeah. Maybe we'll cut all of that out, or maybe we'll leave it in. It was pretty funny.
Just leave it out.
So yeah, do pull up the article though, because we finally figured it out. The CNBC one we were talking about. Yeah, here we go. Bought your kid a VR headset for Christmas? You might end up regretting it.
They say this with every product, though.
How many products are there where it's like, bought your kid this? You will regret
Bought
it.
your kid a PS5? They'll never visit you when you're older. Like,
do you plan on leaving your children in your will? Don't get them an
don't
Xbox.
give them a PS5. Man, don't give them a PS5. They'll disappear on you.
But yeah, basically they made it seem like Meta was the only representative that was available, and like, oh, they're working to fix the issue, and VR chat's the bad guy in this scenario, of course.
Well, it's easy to paint VR chat as the bad guy because they're small. So this is what happens. This is a classic thing that happens inside of our system, is that in order to take down competition, I mean, I wouldn't even bat an eye if this wasn't actually fueled by funding that came from Facebook as some propaganda bullshit, right? Like, am I accusing them of doing that? No. But am I suggesting that there could be a possibility that it could happen? Yeah. And that's the thing right now, right? When you're talking about societal pushes and changes, and you're also talking about how to take down something that's your competitor, propaganda is a very compelling way to do so, and has been for many years. So that's what you have to consider whenever they taught us that critical thinking inside of school, where they told us what is the motive of the individuals whenever they write things online. And we all know that journalists these days are just a bunch of mouthpieces and likely hacks that can't really get a professional on anything, because more often than not they just take whatever's available and then they preach it around like the gospel, and because they're right all the time, right? And that's not true, and we all know that, right? So I'm not saying that all journalism is bad journalism. All I'm saying is that
That's what I'm
when it comes
saying.
when it comes down to it, I can definitely say that the integrity of journalism has taken quite a few beatings over the years, and now they're saying this in the face of a generation that grew up with them demonizing us as gamers. Do you really think we're going to look at this article and take them seriously? This is now biting them in the ass. 20 years of telling everybody that their fantasies were wrong, and now we're in a position where the fantasies are what's ruling the world right now, right? The fantasies, right? All the people who ran WoW guilds and stuff like that, I guarantee you they ended up getting high-end positions in their jobs. And there's a lot of success stories out there that they have the leadership skills to be able to run a WoW guild. White, that's a hard thing to do, of 80 some people, getting them to collaborate with actual schedules and things like that. It's nothing different than what the middle management does. You know what I mean? Or even like higher management does. Like, it's really no different in your ability to learn new skills. Like, that's completely dependent on the person. So what I'm saying is that I actually saw an interesting thing about this as a Twitter post, where somebody's like, you don't know why I hate VR? And everyone's like, why? And it's like, because my whole life I've been told that all these fantasies, all these things that I'll never be good at, that games and things like that, and committing myself to go away from these like things that I'm passionate about, right? They all said it was useless. And now here we are in a position where if you believed in those things and you didn't listen to the bullshit, it's the most useful it's ever been. All these skills now culminate in what this VR thing is going to be, and it's going to do a lot of good. Now, I understand we're actually talking about the article here, but all I'm saying is that people are capable of lying to change the cultural narrative, guys. That happens.
No,
It's
no, it
called
doesn't.
propaganda. You should read the book. It's a very good book. And there's a reason why they don't teach it in high school, and they do teach it in college and business. And the reason is because they want you to be gullible in high school. They don't want you to be gullible when they're teaching, when they actually teach you how it's done in college, right? So keep that in mind. By the way, propaganda and all that stuff is free online. By the way, you can get that for free. That stuff is literally audiobooks on YouTube. So if you've not armed yourself with that knowledge, and you're not really getting yourself on board on those things, and not making yourself aware of how society actually works, where people are manipulating you every day with propaganda and shit, and you want to know how to be your own true person, then you better know the strategies people are using to manipulate you on a daily basis. How's that sound?
If you don't think that monkeys won't steal and eat babies, you haven't been paying attention to the literature,
Well, the monkeys. Yeah.
I guess only Dreams got that one. They were never mind. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we have reached a point where, and I guarantee you, they did reach out to a VR chat representative, and they're like, "Fuck off! I'm not talking to a journalist who's just gonna twist my words anyways." And then it's like,
Right.
look what they said. Look, they're condoning this. Whatever. It's a whole J. Jonah Jameson thing where no matter what you do, they're gonna
Damned if
demonize you.
damned if
It's
you don't.
it's
Yeah. So honestly, the lesser of the two evils here is just not respond to them and let people draw their own conclusions, because at least you'll have people to draw a positive conclusion, rather than us as a community getting really angry and upset whenever their words are twisted against them and then their community is turned against them, which is the alternative here. It's a very solid strategy. Costs a lot of money, but it's not as effective as they wished, because obviously the person did not bite on the bait, and I applaud them for that. Honestly, it would have been a mistake. 110%. In fact, if I'm ever contacted in the future by any of these people, I'm not talking to you either. I'm making my own media shit. You can go away.
So,
well, we have different avenues. We don't need you guys anymore.
do you think that the jankiness of current VR tech, well, do you enjoy the jankiness of current VR tech? Do you kind of how it's in the early stages?
No, just like with any jankiness, right? Like even with like the SNES, you know what I mean? It could only have like what 16 sounds, and yet some of those soundtracks we still listen to to this day because of how incredible they are, even despite the jankiness. In fact, that's kind of some of its charm. Same thing here, right? There's some things in here you just can't really replicate because of its jankiness. You know what I mean? Like, the comic relief of what happens whenever somebody loses their full body tracking and flies away.
Yeah.
It never gets old. You know what I mean? Like every time it happens, you're like, wow, did you get abducted by it? Happens. It's been happening for 4 years and nobody ever lets it go.
Or you
You know what I mean?
set down your
Yeah.
headset and your controllers, but you don't take off your
That's right.
body tracking, and your
Yeah.
your
Well,
torso
like, it just
stays
goes to
down and you walk
show,
away.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a good reminder to not take yourself so damn seriously here. You know what I mean? Like, it's a real good reminder that, shit happens and, you know, and nobody likes anybody who's got a stick up their ass. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if somebody came back genuinely, like, offended that, like, you were laughing at them because they went AFK like that. That would seem a little unbecoming. You know what I mean? Where you're like, hang on a second, like, this is weird. Like, we're just laughing with you, bro. Like, that's all we're trying to do. Trying to make a joke. Haha, funny. You know?
That's what's so weird to me is how VR chat is so much more immersive than something like Second Life, but people take Second Life so much more seriously than they do VR chat. And
Yeah.
it's like these polar opposites where, like, do you know Daniel from Second Life, the guy who goes around and trolls and does the videos? Like, he's tried to come into VR chat before, and then it just hasn't worked. Like, he gets recognized and then leaves immediately, or people aren't as receptive to him trying to get a rise out of these people. Whereas
Right,
you
because
go
people
into
don't take people seriously here. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah.
try to call somebody like any kind of racial slur here. I mean, you'll generally get the response like, "Yeah, and what about it?" And everyone's like, "Oh, well." Oh, I guess I did kind of say that to somebody running around as a Shrek avatar. So what else was I expecting? Like, like you troll here, you get trolled back. There's like an immunization to that. You can get a rise out of people who take themselves too seriously. Easy. That's like a easy job. And I'm gonna even say that. I'm guilty of that. Like sometimes I can take myself a little too seriously. So. I have to dumb myself down when it comes down to that and not be such a guy with the stick up their ass. I mean, I'll be the first to call myself out about that. So I'm aware. I'm self-aware. But that's kind of the situation, ain't it? I mean, it's the internet. Ultimately, it's what you got to remind yourself. Like, it's just the internet, boy. People are gonna say dumb things as people do. I mean, you're not interacting with your hometown, with your culture, right? You're interacting with a wide variety of cultures all around you. And what's acceptable in one place is definitely, I mean, shit, honestly, like, I have friends, like, legitimately that have actually, like, killed people, you know what I mean, in this game, right? And that is
hold on. You can't just drop that and not elaborate.
I'm gonna drop it. I am elaborating, right? Just now, right? So like, like for either it's their job or their occupation, right? Through the military, you know what I mean? Or they live in a country that is primarily ran by the mafia and legitimately like the street rules is what protects them. You know what I mean? Like,
Do they play as a cute anime girl?
yeah, but isn't that interesting though? Like,
that's terrifying.
It's
That's absolutely terrifying.
That's my point though. Like, right? Like there is something going on here that is more human than what humanity has ever let itself look at itself as. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of society stuff or societal norms that like tell us to like don't do this, don't do that, blah blah blah. But a lot of those things fall apart here, and in fact, some of them are even revealed as fallacies here. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, there's that phenomenon where people head pat one another, you know what I mean? And some people like it, and a lot of people, like some people don't like it. A lot of people like it, but why is that? Well, like we're monkeys, we're social animals, and part of socializing is grooming each other. That's socialized. Like it is funny how like that head pat turned into like the standard greeting with people, because it's like once you identify a friendly face, you know what I mean? Like if you have that instinct to want to like touch the head, you know what I mean? Like that's still ingrained in us, and it kind of reveals that, oh my god, like we are still primitive, we still desire these things, and it's something that's we're separated from, and it might explain why a lot of people are angry or depressed, because like we ignore these very human things that people need in their lives. You know what I mean? Like people need that physical confirmation just as much as the verbal confirmation that they exist. You know, you can't just have somebody that exists without, either a loving touch or even that touch of understanding. You know what even a touch of understanding is. It's not even. It's like that hand on the shoulder, like it's gonna be okay, man. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like even that, you know what I mean, is very much like something we need. You know, it's not, and it isn't made up. You know, this isn't something that people make up. Like, no, some people aren't touchy-feely because they have like their fight or flight senses up there, and they've, have their own reasons or experiences in their life as to why like they fear those kinds of things, or why they're more skeptical of it. But there's others that are definitely like, they're, unaffected by a lot of things in their life. They rolled a good hand, you know what I mean, I guess. And they're able to generally more easily accept like, those more tribalistic instincts where, hey, grooming is a thing, you know what I mean? And that kind of stuff. So like, where we used to pick ticks off of each other, like with the hair and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Or get rid of parasites, or, that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
So going back to the jankiness of VR.
Yeah, right. But that's it though, right? But that's part of the jankiness, ain't it? Like the human behavior, like you would expect humans to not, like, why are people more easy to violate that physical space bubble they are here than they are in real life? Because there's no danger here. You know what I mean? Like I know
obviously there is, according to this article.
The article didn't even mention the fact that you can block any user that you want, and it never mentioned that you can hit the log out button at any time that you feel like you're in danger, right?
No, you can't take off the headset. This is Sao. If you take it off, you die.
And you can take off the headset, right? After beheading yourself, of course, right? So like that's the crazy thing is that they mention none of the controls that already exist for these platforms, right? While trying to make it demonize this thing. So that's what I mean when I say it's likely a propaganda attack on VRChat, which, if I was somebody trying to compete with VRChat and I had a ton of money, heck, that's a very viable strategy, ain't it? I mean, that's looking quite like an attractive strategy right there when you're trying to tear down your biggest competition when you know they don't have as much money as you, right? I'm not saying I would do it. I'm just saying that if you put yourself in a position of a soulless hack like that's trying to do it, like these guys, then you would, then there's your answer. So they've done it for years. It's worked for them very well for a while now. So
do you think though that here in the next 5 years we will look back on things like the Vive and possibly even the Index and be like, wow, I can't believe we were using those? Like
I already do.
Yeah,
I already do. I hate these things. Are you kidding me? Like,
this
honestly,
is too heavy.
Like,
it's too much.
Who invented these controllers, like for the Vive ones and for the Index? Aliens?
Okay, listen, I feel like I'm the only person on planet Earth who actually enjoyed the Vive ones. Like I could throw them across the room and they would still. I'm serious. I could throw them across the room and they would still work.
We're done.
Like the Index controllers, I've had to replace like 2 times. I never once had to even think about.
The touchpads on those Vive controllers
but
died on me.
Who
is the smart person that puts button inputs on movement inputs?
I memorized exactly where the inputs were to do all of the things, and I knew it was so intuitive for me. The grip buttons were easily.
How hard it is to run this podcast with Vive on?
You want to trade controllers?
Dude,
you want me to send you mine?
Your knuckles.
The only people who have...
You don't want to trade with me because my controllers are broken. Dude. I can barely move in this game without fucking changing the bindings.
Yeah,
they're done.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, whenever the solution to preserve your thumbsticks on the Index is to make it to where the touchpad turns into the movement in every game that you play, then you may have to consider that your controller sucks.
I hate the Index controllers.
Especially when the cheaper headset on the market the Quest 2 is kicking your ass with controller design because it is the perfect fucking controller for VR. They have literally invented what I would say is it's not quite up to Xbox 360 perfection, but it's got that Xbox, right? It's right before that stage, right? That should be the standard, not this crap.
I
would
like
trade this
I
finger
like the
crap,
PS4 controller better than the
finger,
Xbox
the
controller.
finger tracking. I would replace any day with either a stronger thumbstick that can actually manage FPS games or even begin to even think about managing FPS games. I just got these controllers and the right and left is already drifting on me or in a dead zone.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
And people are like, well, are you slamming them around? No, I just play. I'm a gamer. I'm sorry.
There's a guy.
I play.
Here's
I
your
play
problem.
FPS games
You're a
and
gamer.
games that actually make you use your controllers. I'm not sorry about that. And if that means that they cannot keep up with my standard of play, which I'm sorry, I'm a gamer so hard and I have to own all those noobs. You know what I mean? Like, it's
There's a
stupid. These
person who
controllers suck.
made modular Vive wands for like it was a Kickstarter program that never.
Man, I
really
don't want to hear about that. 5-1s suck.
But he made it so that you could replace.
Who would invest time in a modular Vive wand? One of arguably the worst controller to come out.
Listen, let me finish. It wasn't Vive wands. It was Index Knuckles. He made modular Knuckles so that
I saw that one actually. That's a good one.
Was that CES or whatever it was this year?
Yeah.
Yes, and you could actually have a thumbstick that's replaceable. It's a decent thumbstick. It's not
basically
like
VR. Get your shit together or allow third parties to make controllers already because I'm tired of your first party shit. It all sucks.
Yeah, okay. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about is do you think that we're ever going to reach a point where hopefully you can it's very modular in the sense of what pieces of equipment you want. So if you want a different pair of controllers and then a different headset and a different wire or things like that, you can absolutely do that.
Man, I hope so. Because this is crap. You know, like the situation it is right now is first party is clearly not doing well at taking care of their people, and everyone wants to whine and cry. And I made this post actually on Twitter, and it got a lot of attention somehow. I don't know. I guess whenever I'm angry about things, people like to talk with me more. I guess when I put positive things, you know, like 9.
That's just Twitter. That's just Twitter for you.
Like, yeah. So. Basically, I said, this is what I said on Twitter, and I quote, the winner of high-end VR will be the one that gets controllers, comfort, and audio down to a science in that order. FOV and resolution at the current standards is fine with the index. Sure, it can be worked on, but the other things will have to come first. Controller quality has to be an absolute premium and feel amazing. Comfort needs to be so good you can lay down in the headset and not feel a thing. Audio needs to be so clear you forget the outside world. At this stage, higher resolution and FOV are going to be buzzwords that nobody will care about when the rest of the experience is crap.
I disagree. I think
I know people are going to fight me on FOV before you disagree with
I'm gonna
only
not
on
FOV. I disagree about audio. I think audio should be the least concern for any VR headset.
What?
All of these companies have no fucking clue how to make audio, and that has just been proven with every single pair of headphones that I have put on. No. Listen. No. Listen. Here's the thing. We're gonna fight. You and me, we're fighting right now. Because here's the thing.
Planar fucking titanium.
Okay, you want to know the headphones that I use whenever I'm in VR?
Yeah, you're gonna say it every time.
I swear to God, if you were bragging about the fact that you can wirelessly use your like audiophile headphones for VR.
See, here's the thing, is the fact that you should design a headset first. To me, it's like gaming headsets. They're fucking useless. Don't design like for people who just want to put on a headset, it's fine, but don't make something to where I like have to use what you're giving me. I don't want these little, speakers that are implemented into the thing. I don't want these headphones that aren't modular at all. No, but here's the thing with the Index, I would have to get like a separate piece to go in here into the little 3.5 millimeter jack and have that run out. That's a separate piece that I have to buy. That should be standard.
I think they come off.
No, 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 no.
Do they
We're
not?
no.
I
The
swear
little
that
3.5 millimeter jack is what I'm saying is too far out of
Oh.
reach, and you have to buy a separate adapter that they probably sell in order to
Mm.
use it. That should be standard. With my Vive, it was standard, and I could plug in my Beyerdynamic DT770s right into the headset, and it just worked, and I didn't have to do anything. I don't care about the audio quality of the headset. I don't want to use it. Period. I want to use my own headphones, and I want them to fit over the headset. These
Right, but
companies
you're a
should
very
be.
niche like example,
But
right?
that
Like,
should be available to me, you know? Like the thing is these companies are
yeah.
headset companies first. They're not audio companies. These companies like Sennheiser, Beyerdynamic, or Gold Planar, whatever it is, they are all audio companies first, and I want to use their products and I want to use them while I'm in game.
Well,
Whereas take
in
like
order
Sony
for
and whatnot, those are display
standalone is the
companies,
future.
and yeah,
Standalone is the future, and there's no way people are going to buy a VR headset and then buy a $300 pair of Beyerdynamics. Not going to happen, right?
that's what I did.
Like, yeah, I know that's what you did, but that's not going to happen. Realistically, like, if we're going to talk about realistically, what's actually marketable, what actually makes a premium headset, right? The elements that can make a premium headset. Resolution in FOV is, people are going to say, like, try to, like, rinse me at the stake for that one, right? Or like, kick my ass for saying that. But I'm telling you, like right now, like resolution is fine as is. Like with the current standard that is set at, yes, you can set the standards higher. But I think that if you really want a premium experience for a headset, right? Then that's why the order of evolution is controllers and comfort, right? The controllers is a different thing entirely, right? They should be durable. These should be premium.
Controllers are
There should
actually
be
the
no
entire
flex in
reason
these things,
I
right?
don't want
I
to play
paid
VR half the time.
$300 for these boys, or $250 plus tax, right? Almost $300 for these things, and I've rebought them now 4 times because I don't want to deal with the shipping bullshit, right? I've bought these things and have had them sent back so many times, right? And this is the $1,000 premium headset. I should not have to deal with this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. And the comfort should be at $1,000, 0 to none. No other headset should be able to come close to matching the comfort that the headset offers for $1,000 at this point. So these designs need to be able to support the weight of all this money and stuff like that, and the research and development for these things is there, right? And we just need to see it come into fruition at this point. But and then audio is important because as we move towards a standalone headset experience, which we all know is the future of VR, right? VR is going to be its own device, right? It cannot be tethered to a PC until such a time where people are actually literate enough to utilize the customizability of PC. VR will never go away because they'll always have better hardware. But the console is basically version of this thing that's happening here is that the Oculus is going to be, or the VR headsets are going to be its own kind of console experience, right? For now, while everyone tries to catch up on how the hell to actually improve this. Or hell, we might even see modular HMDs in the future that are similar to PCs. If you upgrade it, then the standalone thing, you get the extra battery package, boom, right? Look, your headset's better. Who knows, right? Basically, it's going to come down to those things where those 3 things, and that's going to be the big winner. And that's why I really do think when it comes down to premium VR, and Apple could totally screw this up if they decide to go walled garden, which is probably what they're going to do. But if they come in and their headset is $3,000, for instance, but it's standalone and it can do a lot of good shit, its display is second to none. Nobody beats it. If its control scheme is perfect, if it has the ability to seamlessly wirelessly have your headset connected and have an amazing audio and visual experience, if that's the case and it can offer it at 120 hertz at high resolutions, if it's got that down, it might be worth the high Apple price tag for that standalone headset, because if it also obviously it has to interface with Steam VR, there is no choice. I don't see Apple coming in and trying to force an Apple store on people for this crap. If they
I
do,
think
they
it will
made a
happen.
severe-
I
they
do
will
not
make a
think.
severe mistake if they do that. Now,
I don't think
probably
so.
will happen because it's Apple, but if they do it, that would be the stupidest thing to do. You will fail immediately.
No, I think. Oh, geez, there goes my arms. Hey,
Yeah.
jankiness. Speaking of, but
It has to be Steam compatible.
No, I don't think that. I think it will be software locked to Apple, and I think that it will still
Shit.
succeed absolutely, because Apple is like okay, what's a good example for this? I'm not a big fan of Apple. I don't like the things
No,
that
we
they
know
do,
Apple,
and
Apple fans.
but
Yeah.
dear God, do they make some damn good products. Like
I
they are
agree.
very, very good. Like take the Apple AirPod Pros. Like they are the standard for wireless earbuds. Period. Like there is no company that I have seen that has been able to rival that at all. They are like you look at anyone on the street, they're wearing AirPods. I even have a pair. I have a Samsung and I use
I
them
wish I had them.
because
They're too expensive.
their noise canceling is incredible and they are very, very neutral. Like they just work and they're great for workstations and whatever. If you're doing like audio work, they're perfect. And that's the thing is like they are just very, very good at making this hardware toward the point where you're like, God damn it, I guess I have to jump into this. And
Right.
there was a point where I almost went and bought an iPhone again after going to Samsung because my mom wanted to FaceTime me. And it's just like, I want to use iMessage to communicate with my family and all this stuff that things like Apple just does it. It's all integrated, it's all there. And I think that they will not let it leave their ecosystem.
Yeah, I almost
There's
bought
no
a
way.
MacBook again for my portable office because I'm like, man, I really don't want to throw like $2,500 on a gaming laptop when I can just throw $300 at like a MacBook that was back in 2015 and it's gonna run just as good as the day it was bought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like trust me, I wish that Apple would have their stuff work on Steam VR. I wish that like PlayStation would have their stuff work on
They'll
Steam
probably be
VR.
ways,
But I
though.
don't think that standard out of the box, no way. That's just not
Yeah.
happening. Same thing with Oculus and how they're Facebook locked and now you have to do all this stuff to get through and avoid their Facebook.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that like that's gonna be the three big things that'll really dictate
Dreams,
on
mute your
who-
mic.
on who actually wins the premium hardcore VR headset crowd, right?
Yeah.
Right now they've been by and large severely underserviced in my opinion. These controllers are inexcusable. The audio quality right now needs to be improved. The microphones, they're pretty good.
Okay, can you not agree with me though in the sense that like I think a headset company should design a headset
Having
first.
modularity is
Take the
always
HTC Vive.
good.
Honestly, you're gonna hate
I'm
me for
not-
this. I love the HTC Vive more than I do the Index. Like the fact that I never had any problems with it aside from the cable, which was my fault because I twisted it and then I would untwist it and then I got a second cable. I never had a problem with it. And it just like it was a headset first and then I could use my own headphones. Like there should obviously be an upgrade like an audio strap that you can get, but I don't want to pay for that. If I buy an Index, I don't want the headphones. I'm just going to take them off and throw them on the floor. Like that's not something I want, and I don't want to pay the extra amount for that, which is probably what, like $100. I could have saved $100 by just not having the headphones
I'm never
at
gonna
all.
debate against modularity. I mean, I would just complain about how I wish my controllers were more modular. So, I just think that
The controllers are absolutely an issue. That is the biggest issue.
Are
Period.
the biggest issue right now in VR, and it's ridiculous that I have to use a worse headset to get the best controller experience. And in fact, because I got so sick of my Vive, my Index, right? I went back to my Quest 2, even though I was taking the resolution hit, even though I was taking the FOV hit, right? I went back because the controls were just so much more convenient and like I can do things way more effortlessly, and like yeah, it's nice to have finger tracking, but this is a gimmick. I don't know any time where I'm like, hey guys, I'm having fun. That never happens, right? Like I don't just move my hands around like randomly, you know what I mean? Woo, look what I could do. You know, that never happens, right? You get more expression a little bit with the fingers, which is fine, I guess. But like ultimately,
That's the
like
thing. I wasn't wowed whenever I bought them. Like I got them and I was like, this is exactly what I expected. Okay. And then it just kind of
yeah.
like the only real improvement that I like is I don't have to hold on to them. That's it. That's the only thing that I can
Oh, but that's
verifiably
easily
say.
fixed. Like with Quest 2, all I did was buy like a $10 like silicon thing that added straps onto it. Done. And now they're Oculus Quest 2 Index controllers with straps. Done. Easy. Fucking amazing. It was the best silicon thing ever. Like it just the best controller thing I've ever bought or accessory ever. And I bought accessories all the time for my Xbox controllers. So like, I mean, this was the best one hands down I've ever bought for a controller, was just adding a strap onto the Quest 2 controller. Super cool. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I seriously, I can't wait to get rid of these things.
There's no
like,
excuse.
I
There's
cannot
no
wait.
excuse for these things. Like these index controllers for premium grade, they should not creak whenever I move them. These are $250 controllers, dude.
Yeah.
They are
It's-
not. There's no way, right? For $250, what do you buy with that has the same technology? A fucking smartphone, right? Like, bruh. You know, there's the same technology, except, you know, I don't have a screen, right? Like the only thing that's now touch is now the controller, but I would sacrifice this for better controller quality any day. Like if they did the same thing, like the 3DS situation to the 2DS, if they came up with like, hey, look, we came out with the new Valve controller. We literally got rid of finger tracking and it's just better thumbsticks and that's it. And it's like the 2DS version of the index controllers, bought immediately. I would buy that immediately. Just get rid of the finger tracking.
Have you seen
and then have it be replaced with a grip button, and then have it to where now my controls, like my actual thumbsticks, work. Like, bruh, sometimes now, like my thumb will just get stuck in the down position because the thumbstick is messed up. Thanks, guys. Amazing. You know, like, oh my god, dude, I can rant about these controls literally the entire
I
rest of the
can't
podcast. I
so
hate these things.
I'm tapping on the thumbstick and it just doesn't work on this one. This one does. This one does
This is
not.
a $1,200 headset when you include everything, dude. This is absurd, right? That is a mid-range PC, and they can't fucking get the peripherals right. That is not accessible. If you bought that PC with like a mouse and a keyboard, you would expect also like that keyboard and mouse to come with the package to actually last you longer than a year. Imagine if you bought it, right, and it didn't last you longer than 2 months, like the mouse and keyboard. You'd probably be pretty livid. You know what I mean? Like you'd be like, yo, dude, you upcharged me for this thing is $60 and this shit don't work. You know?
Have you
Vive
seen the
Pro cables? Hold on. The Vive Pro cables literally last like 3 months if you are not careful, and you like say if you're like doing gaming when you're looking around a lot.
Which is every game because you're playing
every
VR.
So where the cable connects to the back of your head is bending.
People
constantly.
won't look around a lot in VR
This
game.
is like
That sounds
this is like
stupid.
5
Hold on, I need
podcasts
to
now
get
that
through-
he's
I need
complained
to
about the
say this.
Vive cable.
Dude, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so my issue has been I've gone through 7 cables in less
Oh
like,
my
in
god.
a
So
year
sorry for you,
and a
dude.
half.
A year and a half?
Dude, now listen to me, okay? They HTC took the original $55 cables off of their store. And now they're selling an $80 cable, and you have to buy a 2.0 link box that costs like $150 to like even continue to use this headset.
And that's
There are
what you buy
Chinese
premium. No, did
companies
you hear it was a premium
selling-
headset?
There are Chinese companies selling the old cables for $170 to $200.
Oh my
I just
god.
bought one for $170.
Fucking
It's the last
Sag.
of its kind, and it's sitting in a box.
The
When this
last
thing
of its
fucking
kind.
goes,
The last samurai
this
cable.
headset is garbage because I am not spending $80.
Yeah, I'm
each
not
time I need
worried
a new
about.
cable.
Ultimately, you know what I'm
$100
worried about VR? I'm not worried about like the onboarding people into this technology. The Quest 2's got that shit covered, got it in spades, easy peasy, right? What I'm actually worried about is that are we able to retain the people who are willing to spend money on the higher end VR, because it keeps under fucking performing with the
That's the thing.
easiest bullshit.
It's all garbage.
It's like for the last 4 years, we've experienced terrible controllers. Every headset generation, you know what I'm looking at? I'm not looking, oh, look at this, it's a much better headset, it's got better resolution and FOV, look at it, cool, neat. Thanks for the buzzwords. What do the controllers look like? PS2 VR, it's like covered in black and you can't even see it in the shadows. I'm like, why can I not see these controllers, man? Like, what are they scared of? You know, like, why? The most premium headset, like, think about it, right? How do you interact with VR, right? You put it on the headset and you can see what's going on around you. I'm sorry, this is how I pick up items? Come here, bucket. Like, that's not how this works. You know, I'm not a chicken. I don't pick stuff up with my mouth. You know what I mean? I use my hands. So, like, if that doesn't feel premium, then the immersion is gone. You can have the highest, most realistic graphics of all time. Oh shit, look at this. You'll never feel like you're unimmersed ever again. Too bad. You can't use your controllers. You know what I mean? Like,
they just want you to get rid of the controllers so they can do the hand tracking. That's what they wanted.
Nah, it's bad. That's just bad. Other people argue, well, the technology is very impressive. It's come a long way. I don't care. If it's not perfect, then it's bad. I'm sorry. Because like, the moment you start using my actual hands to accurately try to determine what I'm doing and where I'm going, now you're taking the most accurate tool in the world, my hand, right? Which is a very accurate tool, right? It does whatever I need it to do because my brain power uses it. But if you put a delay on that, or make it any way less accurate than what it should be, in any circumstance, it's going to take me out of the experience. If I'm trying to grab and it's like, cannot register grab because your hand is not fully clenched up because it's occluded from the center. Well, good job.
When the Primax,
you fucked it up. You know what I mean? Like,
when the Primax revealed that they were making new controllers, I got so excited.
Everyone did.
And then they released the fucking and it was a touchpad, and I'm just
everyone was
like,
pissed.
all right, we're done here. There's nothing left.
Get about them.
Nothing left.
Get out of here. No, that was the truth, right? They were releasing like what the Sabers or whatever the fuck it was called, and they showed that they had like thumbsticks on them, and everyone's like, without a trackpad, everyone's like, oh, no trackpad. Oh my god. That's why people wanted the indexes to work so bad, is because it was like the promise to get rid of the trackpad and have a thumbstick only, and they're like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. And then we got the shit.
You know, I bet to you they put the little trackpad on there because they're like, I think these are gonna break. We should just put that on there just in case, like, so that way they can.
What do you mean the variable resistor on this thing also has a plastic piece that breaks under heavy use and it's really tiny? Oh man! And
it's like, did you see that the Nintendo, the N64 controllers, they designed them with the exact same flaw that was in the original N64 controllers, and so they're going to break the exact same way and have dead zones that are gigantic and make the controller completely unusable.
I am so sad.
Like, what the fuck, Nintendo? That was such an easy fix. You fixed it with the GameCube. Like, just put the GameCube one in there. Like, use the same tech. I don't know what you're doing.
It's the same thing here, right? Like, how many years of console thumbsticks have we gone through for them to be like, I give up. Let's just go to the old. The old is the old. It's like, if it works, it works. But sir, it's not gonna. If it works, it works. Yeah, like shit. It's like, fuck, man. It makes me so sad. Look, if you are a VR executive, and if you ever listen to my words at all, anything that I ever do, please hear my plea, and that don't be an idiot. Please give us good thumbsticks. For the love of God, you can make my A and B buttons feel like shit, but just give me a fucking thumbstick, asshole. You know what I mean? Like, holy God, like one that doesn't break in 2 months.
Have you
seen any drifting? Like, you know what's funny? Oh, it does a new trick, by the way. If I click my my trigger in the right position, it actually collides with the resistor contact that's supposed to move me left and right. So while I push the trigger, it'll actually make me rotate. And I'm like, Ooh, what a new trick! Fancy. These are the fixed versions of the controllers, so I'm glad that they fixed whatever they did and added in a short circuiting issue, which makes me rotate whenever I squeeze a fucking trigger. Thanks, guys. Fucking, oh my god, dude. I'm sorry. I can go the rest of the podcast on this subject. Let's move on.
No, have you seen the meme of it's like the Cthulhu coming out of the water and it's like landing on the moon with 8 kilobytes of RAM, and then it's like the people on the land and it's like 8 gigabytes of RAM, you know, like you can't open Chrome tab. Like it's like like what went wrong? Why do we have all of this new technology but we can't fucking utilize it?
Billions of dollars of research and development to just be ignored. Okay. There better be a good legal reason for this, guys. There better be, because
I should be at the top of the pistol playground every time I play on Pavlov with these fucking things. It's unbelievable.
Dude, you would not believe how many times I have to listen to this guy just lose his shit because of the controllers and stuff while he's playing Pavlov. Like it's just the whole.
Oh, what's that? You dropped your magazine? Sorry, we put the input to drop inputs on the same input that movement is. I guess you don't like playing with your guns.
You have to walk backwards to drop the magazine, but good thing for me, my down key stopped working, but it still works when I mash it really hard.
Playing Pavlov with index controllers is ridiculous.
It stopped me from randomly dropping my magazine. Because the controller broke, it gave me a game advantage. Imagine. This is the only medium where we can say that. Bullshit. Do better.
There's no buttons on this thing.
Do better. If you're going to sell me a headset, a premium headset, do better. Do not let me use a shitty way to interface with you. I swear to God, if they try to gimmick this shit, oh, hand tracking's gonna be the future. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Like, this shit, it better be a blessing from God of how well it works. Because, man, I can tell you, I'm gonna speak for a lot of people, enthusiasts of VR. We're getting burnt out of these shitty control schemes. You better make a good one for once, man. Like, everyone's looking at you guys, and that's gonna be the headset that kicks your
Let's
ass.
move on. We're gonna talk about these controllers for 10 years,
Yeah,
please.
dude, I told you. Let's move on. I tried to get
Okay,
on earlier.
how was your 24-hour stream? What was that like?
Oh God, it was amazing. Everyone was very supportive. I even slept an hour inside of VR, which was fun.
1 hour. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's almost enough for one sleep cycle.
Right. I'm a power sleeper, so whatever. I get down a power nap when I need one. But man, it was so much fun. I mean, really what ended up happening is I planned on having like an actual sleep session, like a sleepover, and then I completely forgot because I was having too much fun playing games with people. And there's so many games in VR chat that have come out recently that just kept me entertained the entire time. So it's not like I was sitting here bored and waiting around for things to happen. Like, no, chat was there, keeping me company. And yeah, sure, they may have had sub goals that incentivized them to stick around and also torture me a little bit. But, there may or may not be one where they want me in a maid dress with, and then turn my OC into a squirrel girl for some reason.
That's very specific.
It was, and I thought to myself, why my moderator turned on me and suggested that to put on the sub list. I even asked them, I was like, do you have something? Like, is this one of your things? Like, why was this added to the list? Because, like, that's how much freedom I give my chat and my mods. So I'm just like, I give them the freedom. Hey, here you go. Have the power to do this. And then I immediately regret it. But hey, you know what? They're my little trolls, and and in subtle ways, I troll them back. So it's like that. We have like a chat. Me, it's like a bromance sort of situation. You know what I mean? So it's like they fuck with me, and I fuck with them back. They know.
You were you inspired at all by the Disrupts Week in VR chat stream? You remember that?
Who?
Oh, you didn't ever see that? Oh, I was in it too. It was really funny. Dreams, pull up the Disrupt 7 days in VR
I don't mean to
chat.
be rude, but who? 7 days?
Yeah, he did 7 days straight. Like he didn't.
Cool.
He would. I think he would basically take the headset off and close his eyes and put a quest on, and then go take a shower with like a waterproofed quest, and then come back and put the index on, and like he streamed the whole 7 days. You can see at the end of the video, we were all clapping as he went out, and I was like, I'm putting my index controllers on the line for this. Like this. Oh, dear, there it goes.
Yeah. Oh, my eyes. Ugh, an eyelash got in my eye. But no, it wasn't. I didn't even know he spent 7 days. Good on him, though. I was actually considering doing that myself because I thought I was like, man, maybe nobody's ever done this before. But now
No,
you've
this
told me
is
this, and
this
I'm
is
like,
okay.
damn.
This is different. This is 7 days in VR. The one in the recommended, the first one recommended. I spent a week in VR chat. That was click on that one. Yeah, this one he just had like an Oculus Go or whatever it was.
My monitor to my headset, and I also see my OBS.
Here, go to
when I
just go to the.
brush my teeth and stuff, and change or shower, cook. I have
No, not there. It was like
pass through.
right at the end.
I like to think of it as VR chat is wherever you want VR.
There's a clip of all of us. We invited him in, and there were like 30 or 40 of us all in bucket avatars, like basically trying to coerce him into a cult, is what it seemed like. Hey, there! Yeah. That was cool. Yeah, you could tell he was just so tired of having something strapped to his face for 7 days. I would hate that, but it was funny. But yeah, do you think that you think that living in VR is going to become pretty commonplace here in the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, like, look around at the options that people have given otherwise. I mean, I can go ahead and paint the picture of what real life is throwing at people right now, but I think everyone gets the picture after 2020.
That's true.
So,
What are your hopes for the future?
I hope that if that things are improved, the quality of life in VR is improved. I want to see that we make effort to accommodate for a lot of these. Honestly, like when you asking that question, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like I'm kind of expecting people to kind of just like replace their real life with a lot of what happens in virtual reality. And I'm not saying like all aspect of life, and I hope that they do enjoy their real lives to the fullest extent and use this ability to enhance themselves, right? I don't want it to be a full replacement. They should be able to travel, you know what I mean? And they should be able to take a couple months off of VR and go and travel and go see Japan and stuff like that in real life. That'd be a very cool thing to do, and then come back or something, right? But me personally, I want people to be able to make a living in VR. I want to enable those who did not have the ability to get agency over their lives a chance to gain agency. What this technology, I think, will primarily be known for is that those who are physically disabled, that still have a lot of good ideas and a lot of good work in them, will be able to make themselves into an entrepreneur or work for other entities that will help them define themselves and make their lives much better, and to get agency back over their lives. In a society that looks at somebody like that and says that they're broken, now they have a chance to prove them wrong and really prove them wrong. And adding to that, there's a lot of really cool possibilities to hand over to these individuals and push them forward and enable them to do better. That's really what I ultimately think, is that like our next Einstein is going to be found in VR, because there's all these people that weren't ever given a chance, that were thrown by the wayside.
My final question is, what is on your bucket list?
I just want to one thing I've always said that's on my bucket list is I've always wanted to drink a cup of coffee underneath the Aurora Borealis.
Me too, man. I want to see that. I don't
Yeah.
know where to go at what time, because I know there's real specific times you have to go in order to see it, but that's
Like,
definitely a goal of mine.
That's basically what I want to do. I mean, that's one of the bucket lists. I mean, heck, like other people be like, well, what, do you want to make yourself a huge success here and have a big mansion and blah 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 blah, like because you got it in VR? Is that what you want in real life? Actually, the opposite. I want to be in a nice, quiet place. A little log cabin in the woods. So that's a place I'm familiar with. I'm a small town boy, so the woods are a very familiar place to me. And I don't know, like I've always liked the idea of self-sustaining lifestyle, and I kind of when I was younger and things like that. It's not like that's too far off from what we were doing anyway when we don't have money. So, it's one of those scenarios where like I don't know. It's just I'd be happy anywhere with an internet connection, basically, and a VR headset, or wherever the technology goes in the future to help keep me connected. 'Cause I'm actually quite an introvert. A lot of people assume that I'm an extroverted kind of guy. That's not the truth. I just exercise my social battery. But yeah, anyways, bucket list. Yeah, that was the question. I don't know. The Aurora Borealis thing, but I guess if you wanted it more related to VR, I want to be one of the grandfathers of something in VR as well. I want to really impact this place in a major way. I want to make sure that people understand their communities that they have here. I want to leave behind a message that they matter, the individual matters here, and to never underestimate your worth. And I want to add value to those people and give them the tools to push their value, to understand that the chips are in their pot, and it's not in some random company that wants to buy them or anything like that. Like, you guys have a lot of choice, and I want to make them very well aware that that choice exists.
Absolutely. Well, Bagel, thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast, even if we had some minor hiccups. So I hope you'll come back sometime, maybe in the future when things have changed. Another year of VRCon maybe.
Yeah,
We'll
sure.
see how things have shifted. But
Yeah.
then again, just thank you. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. I don't know where I'm waving. I'm just going to wave somewhere.
Camera up there.